Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be another video in which I'm talking about Scientology. So if this is going to be a video that may be triggering due to the strong religious tones of the topic, go ahead, feel free, skip this video and go check out some of my regular content on my page. Again, like I've stated previously, and I will continue to say, I believe that this is a topic that needs to be spoken out about and that something needs to be done about. So I will continue to make these videos. But again, like I said, if it's triggering for you due to the strong religious content, go ahead, feel free, skip this video. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get into the topic. While I'm doing this, I'm going to be cleaning my makeup brushes because I have a long week ahead of me. So I have notes off to the side. I'm going to be doing some stuff right here, but my message is what needs to be paid attention to, okay? So we're going to start off talking about Scientology. I've followed Leah Remini's special on A&E since the first season. I watch every episode. I am behind, I know, and this may be just like, oh my god, we've already seen this, we don't want to talk about it, but I believe it needs to be talked about. So I'm going to be talking about Season 3, Episode 3. They focus a lot on the fair game practice and the use of private investigators. And this is going to tie in with Scientology and their use of tax-exempt funds. Being a church, they do have tax-exempt status, and this episode kind of touches on how they are using that money. So, it is, I thought the last episode was jam-packed with information. This episode is even more. I took several notes, so I'm going to dive into that. First, talking about tax-exempt status, churches have to meet certain guidelines, and those are laid out in the tax code. And if you want to go and check out what that is, look for tax code IRC section 5013, C3. And it lays out the specific things that a church, well, an organization must do to be deemed tax exempt status. And I say churches because that's the biggest thing that people think about when it comes to tax-exempt status is a church. And with Scientology being a religion and being a church, that is what we're talking about here. One of the things stated under this tax code is activities and purposes may not be illegal or violate fundamental public policies. Now, you need to remember that for what we talk about in this video. They cannot be illegal purposes, and they cannot violate your fundamental public policies. They cannot violate your constitutional rights. Now again, I'm going to say that cannot violate your constitutional rights. Okay, now that I've hammered that in, they talk about some of the communications that the church has publications on. And it comes from the HCO, which stands for Hubbard Communications Office. And these are things that were written by L. Ron Hubbard when he was alive. So these were written in the 1950s. So this manual was written by L. Ron Hubbard in the 1950s, and it lays out how to deal with those that are against Scientology. So, like enemies of Scientology, people that speak out against Scientology, organizations, things of that nature. And in that, quoted, because I paused and wrote this down for this video, when we investigate, we do so noisily, always. And always mere investigation damps out the trouble, even when we discover no real pertinent facts. So, they do what is called noisy investigations. And that will be laid out what they mean by that throughout this whole thing. So just keep that in mind, that L. Ron Hubbard specifically laid this out for Scientology in the 1950s. So, also be aware that they have dossiers on people that they consider enemies. People, organizations, government operations that they view to be an enemy of Scientology, Scientology has a dossier on. So, in this episode, they speak about Paulette Cooper, who was a journalist, who was a very outspoken person when it came to Scientology. She was writing a piece on Scientology. Scientology did everything they could to ruin this woman's life. They filed 19 lawsuits against her. They went as far as breaking into her office, stealing her stationery that had her fingerprints on it, writing bomb threats to people. They had spies on her. They had spies on her mother. I mean, they went full force on this woman. Why? Because she was a journalist writing a piece on them and they didn't like it. Like, really? This is a religion in our United States government. A journalist is writing a piece on you. You don't like that. So you do everything in your abilities, everything with the money that you are taking from your parishioners to ruin someone's life. Again, why is this protected by our government? Okay. Sip a little tea while I'm spilling some and moving on. Another organization that they were against is the IRS. Now, it lays out that when dealing with an organization, now this was laid out by L. Ron Hubbard, find the key person and influence them. Only data on individuals is valid for use and is productive. So they figure out who the people are investigating them, and then they do noisy investigations on these people. Just the people, not the organization. So they find out who's investigating them, and then they investigate them. Again, using this money that they are taking from them. Sorry, guys. Be right back. Again, using the money that they are getting from their parishioners to do these type of investigations. Now, David, how does anybody know any of this? How is this public information? David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, got on stage and admitted to these investigations. On stage, they've published articles about various IRS and FBI agents that were investigating them. They published their pictures, their family information, their houses, their cars, their everything, because they were investigating Scientology. Again, why is this a religion that is protected in the United States? I mean, I know we have freedom of religion, but this is not a religion. These people are seriously ruining people's lives. Carrying on. So from 1984 until 1993, Scientology continued to do their noisy investigations. The reason why they were doing this was because they had filed for tax-exempt status and were not getting it. So they proceeded to attack to get what they wanted. Okay, so let that sink in. For 9 years. No, hold up. Yeah, for 9 years. Sorry. Guys, I just got off work. I'm a little sleepy. But for 9 years, they attacked people that were investigating them so that they could earn tax-exempt status. They finally did in 1993. So in their eyes, their noisy investigations worked. It got them what they wanted. They got their tax-exempt status. Now, what are they doing with this status? Oh, sorry guys for the background noise. I'm trying to get my notes to stand up. Well, here's one of the things that they did with their tax-exempt status. Pat Broker was a male that worked with L. Ron Hubbard directly in the last years of L. Ron Hubbard's life. They had this person followed for 24 years. Again, let that sink in. 24 years they had this male followed. And when I say followed, I mean they had all of his moves were tracked. His conversations were recorded. They went through his garbage. They talked to people in his life. They talked to people that were associated with him to get whatever they could on this man for 24 years. How do we know this? Two of the private investigators that were assigned to him finally came out and let it be known what the Church of Scientology was doing. In that 24-year period, the Church of Scientology spent approximately $12 million. $12 million were spent following a man living his life. They literally tracked this man across the United States. They tracked him to Russia. They were recording his phone conversations. They were tracking every move that this person made. Why? Because he left the Church of Scientology and he had worked directly with L. Ron Hubbard. They didn't want any of that information getting out. Moving on. Mike Rinder himself has been very vocal about the noisy investigation that Scientology has done and is continuing to do on him to this day. He has had his computers hacked, his phones tapped, his vehicles had tracking devices on them. He has been followed. His family has been followed. He has been harassed. His family has been harassed. His wife and children were pictured out and about. Why? Because he was a higher up in Scientology who left and they didn't want him speaking out about Scientology, so they wanted to get stuff on him. Again, this is a church. How do we know this information? One, Mike saw what they were doing. He was full aware of the PI system while he was in Scientology. And he has his own personal recordings of stuff that was going on, where they were taking his garbage off the garbage truck and various other things. But we also know this because of Sierra Westman. Sierra Westman is a former Scientology private investigator. Sierra Westman was recruited to work with Scientology straight out of college by her boyfriend at the time, Dwayne Powell, who is still a Scientology private investigator. Remember Dwayne Powell. This will become important later. But her first assignment was to infiltrate a group called Anonymous. Now, Anonymous was a group that was against Scientology due to their censorship of people talking about them on the internet, things of that nature. And because they knew of Scientology's business practices, let's say, they would protest wearing masks to protect their identity so that Scientology could not do the noisy investigations on them. So, Sierra Westman's job was to infiltrate this group, find out as much information as she could on the people so that Scientology could directly go and attack them. And she did. She did her job. Okay, I'm switching my notes around here. Like I said, this episode was jam-packed with information. So Westman did infiltrate Anonymous and got them the information that they needed so that they could send private investigators to harass these people. Just being people, exercising their right to have an opinion against somebody else and living their lives. Yeah, because that's totally normal. That's exactly totally normal. Sierra Westman also stated that she lived in a house that was paid for by Scientology. A house. And she said that there were hundreds of these houses that were paid for by Scientology for various private investigators to live in. Sierra Westman's house was cat-a-corner to Mike Rinder's, with a direct line of sight of his house so that she knew his comings and goings, when somebody would pull up at his house, when his garbage was being picked up, when he got his mail, things of that nature. She said that she used to pay garbage men $20 per garbage man. She said it made her about $160 a week. $160 a week to get Mike Render's garbage so that they could go through his garbage and see what they could dig up on him. Again, totally normal. Now, Sierra Westman even went as far as saying that she used her son in these operations. She had a young son, and when she would see a vehicle pull up at Mike's house, she would put him in his little stroller and she would take him walking by. She said she would act like she was talking to somebody or texting somebody on her phone, and she would take pictures of the vehicles in front of Mike Render's house so that they knew who these vehicles belonged to. She confirmed that there were tracking devices on vehicles and cameras on houses that are stored, like the central base for these cameras and these tracking devices. It's a warehouse with monitors and its own laptop, its own cell phone, its own way of communicating. And if somebody lost the person that they were following, she would look it up on the tracking device and tell them where that person was. Again, totally normal. Totally normal. Moving on, she also talks about a person by the name of Kathy Greenbaum. Now, Kathy Greenbaum is an ex-wife to a, not even higher up in Scientology. This man just had a lot of money and was a Scientologist, and she left. This lady had a lot of problems. She was going to AA. So what does Scientology do? They get Westman to infiltrate her AA group where she's trying to get help so that they could get information on her. Again, totally normal. Excuse me. She also talks about another private investigator by the name of Val Grave, who was doing these types of investigations on other people in the area that she knew about. Now, going back to Powell, I told you to remember Powell for later. Powell was the investigator that was following Ron Miscavige, who is David Miscavige's father. He followed him for 2 years. Powell was arrested with guns and ammo and all kinds of things in his vehicle. Was videotaped at the police station saying that his job was to take care of the old man. And when asked what does that mean, he said that he couldn't talk because of a confidentiality agreement. Yeah, that's comforting. Powell got out of that. The Church of Scientology helped him get out of that, and he also got hush money to stay quiet. Again, totally normal for a church to do. I'm sure every Southern Baptist church is doing that on me right now. So, Westman says, even to this day, she is still very scared of the Church of Scientology and what they would do because of the information that she knows and how they operate. Again, totally normal. Everybody should be afraid of their church. Moving on, the last part of the episode focuses around a man named Robert Omblad. Robert Omblad had 45 years in Scientology. 45 years in Scientology. Why is Robert Omblad on this show? Because when Mike Render left Scientology, a friend of Mike Render's put him in contact with Robert Omblad. Robert Omblad agreed to give him a job. That was it. He gave the man a job so the man could live. And he became part of a noisy investigation that not only ruined his job, but also almost ruined him. Robert Omblad goes on to talk about how he was in the Sea Org. He met his wife in the Sea Org, and he did a few years and decided to get out. So he paid his and his wife's freeloader debt. Now, you may wonder what a freeloader debt is. Well, it's a retroactive billing for all Scientology auditing and training that you receive while you're in the Sea Org, and can run into the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is the biggest thing I have with this religion. You're trying to get a purpose to your life. That's what most people go to religion for, is a purpose in life. Why am I here? What am I doing? Where do I go? What's going on? But in Scientology, for you to do that, you have to pay. You have to pay for your courses. You have to pay for your auditing. You have to pay for everything. You have to pay for the books, the audio books, the videos, everything. But you have to have these materials to be a part of the religion. That's just a little crazy to me, but I'm just saying. So he says that he paid both his wife's and his freeloader debt, and he left the Sea Org in 1975. Robert Omblad was an inventor, or is an inventor. He's still alive. He's still doing stuff, so he is an inventor. He invented the automated key cutting machine, which I know everybody has had some dealings with it. You see them at Walmart and hardware stores and things of that nature. So he was the inventor of that product. He was living a pretty good life, and he was working on an invention for an ice machine, a clean ice machine that would help with saving people's lives and make things better for people. When he met Mike Render, that's what he was working on. Okay, so a PI by the name of Dave Lubo came to Omblad and demanded that he fire Mike Render. And Omblad was like, I don't have a reason to. He's doing good work. I'm not having any problems with him. And from there, that's when the harassment started. They would harass him at work. They would harass him at home. They followed him and his girlfriend places. They contacted his family members. They contacted his neighbors, wanting to know about crimes that he had committed. So when you're going to somebody that's not a Scientologist and you're like, hey, do you know this guy? Has he committed any crimes? People are thinking, like actual crimes, like robbery, embezzlement, murder, things of that nature. So they're turning all these people against him. Why? Because he hired somebody. He gave somebody a lifeline so that they could make it in the world. But this is a religion. Omblad was working with public companies on his invention. They started harassing these companies. They published propaganda against Omblad. They harassed him with cameras. They went as far as in front of his office. He had trees planted in front of his office. They went as far as cutting down the trees in front of his office so that they got a better view of his office while they were surveilling him. Yeah, that's normal. That's what everybody does. Yeah, I mean, I know 15 churches that do that. No, this is so not normal. So, Scientology kept on with their noisy investigations, and companies didn't want to work with Robert Omblad. So, now, an invention that could help save lives and make lives better for everybody was ruined because the Church of Scientology was pissed off because he hired Mike Render. You're a religion, and you preach about how you want to do good for mankind, but you stop somebody from doing good for mankind because they hired somebody you don't like. That makes all the sense in the world. Now, how does this all tie in together? How are they funding all of these noisy investigations? They're funding all these noisy investigations by all the money that they're pulling in from their parishioners that they do not have to pay taxes on. Their tax-exempt status is allowing them to do all of these illegal activities. And they do them on a daily basis. And they have done them since the 1950s. Calculate that up sometime. They are spending hand over fist to get retribution on people they don't like. That's not normal. That's not a church. That's not a religion. That is a cult. That is a brainwashing bully. That is just insane to me. And how people are not speaking out about this more and doing more, and how the United States government has not stepped in and yanked their tax exempt status and shut them the hell down. I do not understand. They're not only breaking apart families and breaking apart marriages and turning families against each other, but they're using tax exempt dollars to do illegal activities day in and day out. And if you've watched any of Leah Remini's special, they have videotaped where PIs have been places where they were at. They have videotaped them following them. So it is still going on to this day. And they're still doing it with their tax-exempt money that they get from their parishioners. And many of their parishioners have been on camera, well, ex-parishioners have been on camera saying, I'm in debt. I can't get a house. I can't get a car. You know, most of these people that grew up in Scientology don't have an education. They're having hard times getting jobs, all because of this religion. I mean, is it that hard to figure out that this is not a good thing? But again, those are only my opinions, and that's all I can say. All of this information I got from Leah Remini's A&E special. If you want to check it out, it is great. They do really good in-depth investigations. They have paperwork to back up what they're saying. And there are several people, there are several groups, there are several things going on that can just back this up point by point by point. I have my opinions on it. You probably have your opinions on it. That's the reason why I say at the beginning of these videos, and I put it in my description box, if this is something that's triggering for you, just don't watch the video. But if you can watch this and you can speak out, do so. Contact somebody, make a noise, get somebody moving. Alright guys, that's going to be all I've got for today. I've got one more episode to catch up on. I'm probably fixing to run into this week's episode too, so that'll make 2 more episodes I've got to catch up on. But all my social media is going to be down in the description box. If you guys want to reach out and contact me and let me know what you think, ask me any questions, please feel free to do so. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, ring the bell. Most of my content is makeup oriented, but I do this special because I do feel strongly about it. If there's anything else you'd like me to speak about, let me know. Leave a comment down below. I always get back to you guys. But that's going to be all for today. Bye, guys.